What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, the man Welding, and today I want to go over a 3G TIG welding test. Now, as some of you guys know, I'm a welding instructor, and tomorrow a couple of my guys are testing on 3G, so I figured it'd be a good time to take a coupon I had laying around and just kind of go over an instructional video, you know, take a stab at some of these welding videos. So what we have here is some 3/8 plate with a 1/4 inch backing strip. The plates have been beveled at 22.5 degrees, okay? That makes for a 45-degree groove angle. And first things first, let's go ahead and tack it up in position. Alright, so as you guys can see, I'm running a scratch start rig. I currently am gonna weld this whole thing out with a number 8 cup, 1/8 inch tungsten. I'm at 200 amps, I'll probably stay there for the root pass. And first thing first though, grab you a grinder and clean up any surface rust, any mill scale, anything. This plate's been sitting around for a couple days, so we're gonna get it nice and shined up before we start welding. Now that that's out of the way, for the root pass, I'm going to take a 3/32 ER70S2 carbon steel filler rod, and as you can see, I'm running quite a lot of stick out on my tungsten, and that is so that I can get it deep and make sure I'm melting in everything nice and good. There's really two methods to putting in this root pass in the 3G plate. You can either freehand it or you can walk the cup. For the root pass, I kind of prefer freehanding, but we're gonna do both and see what kind of results we get. So let's go ahead. So far, so good. Let's go ahead and walk the cup the rest of the way up. All right, first pass complete. All right, guys. So the key to putting in a good root pass on a 3G test plate with a backing strip specifically is, once again, you gotta run that tungsten out quite a bit. Either that or put on a smaller cup. So say if I had a number 5 cup, I'd actually be able to stick that cup in between the bevels and walk it a little easier. But since I'm gonna use a number 8 to run this whole plate, we gotta stick out a substantial amount of tungsten to make sure we're not long arcing. And really, other than that, it's quite simple. Use enough amperage and keep that filler rod in your puddle and just make sure you're flowing all that metal together and move at a nice, consistent travel speed, and you won't have any problems. All right, so next thing I'm gonna do, in between every single pass, I'm gonna hit it with a wire wheel to clean off any oxidation on the surface of that weld. We got nice, even heat signature going up the duration of that weld. You see how it's not ballooned out at the top or anything like that? You know, you get in there, pretty decent weld. Doesn't have to be anything too terribly special. Just flow that metal together and you're good to go. And on a side note, quick little rule of thumb in terms of tungsten stick out, you don't want to run that tungsten out when you're running a standard collet body setup any further in length than the diameter of the cup you're running. So this is a number 8 cup. What that means is the opening of that hole is 8/16, which reduces down to a 1/2 inch, right? We got a 1/2 inch opening on this cup. This number 8 cup is a 1/2 inch opening in diameter. So a general rule of thumb that you want to stick to is you don't want to extend that tungsten out more than a 1/2 inch when running a number 8 cup. All right, so if we were running a number 10 cup, that would mean we don't want to run it out any more than 5/8 of an inch, so on and so forth. So that's just a little tip for you guys. One caveat is if you're using a gasoline setup, you can kind of extend those ranges out just a little bit. And to give you guys a quick peek of what it is we're working with, we're running the Miller Multimatic, 100% argon, 25 CFH, 200 amps. So we're gonna go ahead and run that second pass. Some people call it a hot pass, some people call it a fill pass. Doesn't really matter what you call it as long as you put it in there good. And we're gonna leave the machine at 200 amps. I'm gonna stick with a 3/32 diameter filler rod. And here's a little tip, guys. As you can see, I got headphones in, right? Throw some music on that you like. It's gonna help you put down a good weld, I promise. All right, so let's do it. And for the love of God, keep a sharp, clean tungsten. Guys, if you dip your tungsten, if it's contaminated, if it's dirty, swap it out for a clean one. Be patient, always, always, always weld with a clean tungsten. All right, let's get it. Buff my tungsten up a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and swap it. One important thing to remember is on that root pass, you want to keep it nice and tight. We're not trying to weave really wide, getting up on those beveled walls. We just want to make sure we're going just wide enough to tie everything together. Other than that, we want to keep it real tight. Now on this second pass, I'm still not trying to weave super wide, right? I just want to go a little bit wider than my first pass. So I'm gonna go ahead, swap that tungsten, get it nice and clean, and then we'll jump back in and finish up that second pass. All right, guys, we just finished up the second pass. We burned it in at 200 amps. Freehand at the bottom, walk the cup the rest of the way. Let's take a look at it. Not bad, you know. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful thing in the world. The reality is, as long as you're melting in and you're staying consistent, you don't have any areas with lack of fusion, you're not trapping gas and creating porosity, you're not dipping your tungsten and making tungsten inclusions, you know, it's not the hardest thing in the world to get it to bend clean. So what I'm gonna do now is just walk away. We're gonna let things cool off. I'm running a 150 amp air-cooled torch, so trust me, after 2 passes at 200 amps, that torch is smoking. You know, plate's not terribly hot, but we're gonna give it 10 minutes, kind of let the torch cool off. We'll come back, we'll hit it with the wire wheel, and we'll keep filling it up. Where'd my glasses go? Ah, we don't need them. Fuck it. All right, third pass, let's get it. All right, guys, we just put our third pass in. Let's take a look at it real quick. Still, we're not going so wide that we're eating up the bevel, right? We're filling it up though. We're putting metal down. That's the most important part. You just want to make sure you're consistently putting metal down, right? And you got to be patient. You know, this is multiple pass welding. It's not going to fill up in one shot. You got to be patient and you got to do it in multiple passes, right? Hence the name. So I'm going to go get my tungsten sharpened up just a little bit, and we'll come back. We'll put one more fill pass in it, and we'll see if we are where we want to be in order to start capping. All right? All right, guys, so if you notice, heading into my fourth pass, we got a lot less stick out than we did putting in that root pass, all right? So part of being successful in welding is knowing how to adjust given the circumstances, all right? So as that joint fills up with metal, I don't need to run out so much tungsten, all right? So we got it prepped up. It's nice and sharp, brand new cup, fresh set of gloves. Let's go ahead. Looking at it, and I'm thinking I'm gonna bump up to a 1/8 inch filler rod just to kind of put some metal down, all right? I'm sick of messing around with this little stuff. So we just put in our final fill pass, and judging by the looks of it, I think we're going to be ready to put the cap on. All right, the most important thing I want to illustrate here, before you put that cap on, you don't want to be underfilled or else your cap's going to be shallow. But you also don't want to consume those bevels. I like to leave my bevels intact. That way I got a nice clear line to follow when I'm putting that cap on, because you know, one of the struggles I've faced as a welder is just sometimes my welds are a little curvy, a little wiggly, you know. It's hard to put a really straight weld down. That's just the honest to God truth. So I like to have those bevels kind of serve me as a guideline and help keep things nice and straight. Now the plate's smoking hot, the torch is smoking hot. I've ran every weld up until this point at 200 amps, but I'm probably going to bump down to about 180 for the cap, and I'm going to walk away for a good 20 minutes and let everything cool down, all right? So that's that. Got my glasses back, means it's time for action. And I got one more tip for you, and this one is extremely important and extremely underrated, and that is stay hydrated, guys. I'm here in Southwest Florida, open air shop. It's super hot, and you're not gonna perform at your best if you're not staying hydrated. All right, now that we got that under control, tungsten still looks pretty good. Let's jump into this cap. I turned the machine down to 180 amps. I'm tapping with an 1/8 inch filler rod. Let's do it. Yes, sir. All right, so that first bead went pretty good. The most important thing when you're putting that cap on is, well, there's a few things, right? You want to be consistent because the cap is what everybody's going to see, right? So you want it to be aesthetically pleasing, and in order to achieve that, consistency is a big part. The other big one is avoiding undercut on the toes. And when it comes to putting that second bead on, you want it to be blended very nicely with that first bead. Beyond that, as long as your 2-bead cap is consuming the bevel on each side, it's blended well in the middle, it's consistent, it's not too shallow, it doesn't have an excessive crown, then you should be good to go. All right, so we're gonna give it a few minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and put the next one on. Let's take a look at it. Freehand at the bottom. We walk the cup all the way up to the top. All right. There we go. I'll probably swap the tungsten so I got a nice clean one for my final weld. And of course, I'm gonna go ahead and brush off the oxidation, but looks pretty good. We ran it at 180 amps. I'm happy with it. All right, so let's take a little bit of a closer look at that first bead on the cap. All right, so And you can see no undercut on that left side of that toe. It's beautiful. Beautiful, I tell you. Bead placement is super important when you're capping a 3G test. Look how much of that initial area I covered with just my first bead. All right, so that's going to allow me to blend my second pass into that first weld while also covering up that bevel and not having to go too wide. So that's the key to success right there, all right? Another key to success is just chill out and have some fun, guys. Like, you know, what do they say? Happy cows make the best milk, happy chickens make the best eggs. Well, happy welders make the best welds. So don't stress, don't get angry, just, you know, enjoy it, man. Welding's awesome. Let's see if I can get this last cap on and not mess anything up. It's the moment of truth. We're putting the last bead on. Don't mess it up on the last bead. Let's get it. Well, initial impression is it looks pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and hit it with the grinder and see what it looks like. You guys tell me what you think. That's it. That's how you run a 3G test with GTAW, TIG welding as we like to call it around here. And you know, if you're a present or future student of mine, just show up, do what you know you're capable to do. If you're somebody out there and you're getting ready to take a 3G test, I hope that this video helped you. I know that I didn't incorporate any arc shots. It was more kind of informal. Hopefully, as I progress in my career as an instructor and my career as a YouTuber, I can you know, start introducing some better welding footage. That's a goal of mine. But all things considered, we banged this one out pretty down and dirty, pretty quick, and you know, I'm pleased with it. I think it turned out beautiful. I'll probably cut out some coupons, put them in the bender, but if I was a betting man, I would say those are gonna bend clean without a doubt. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the video. Appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next one.